Okay, so today I'm going to explain to you the practice exam 2. Okay, so we are going to go through a set of questions so that to prepare you for the second exam, right? Let's start with question 1. The production function is concave in capital. So the correct answer is B. A. It says the contribution to production of each additional unit of capital decreasing. This is called the decreasing marginal productivity of capital, right? By the way, so the production function is concave. It just means the curve, the slope of the curve is decreasing, getting flatter and flatter. The slope of the curve actually gives you the marginal productivity of capital, meaning so the additional unit of capital is going to give you less and less output, right? So this is question 1. Actually, so this decreasing marginal productivity of capital also is key to understand solo growth model. Okay, we will talk about that later. So now question 2. It is useful to assume that there is a single representative consumer because the correct answer is B. This is a useful abstraction if we are interested in problems where distribution effects are not important. So what does distribution effect means? Just think about inequality. If you care about why some poor, why some rich, right? So inside a society. And then, so this single representative consumer may not be a good assumption. If that's the case, then we need to introduce some heterogeneity. Or in other words, we may assume people are different, or we may move away from this single representative consumer. But for now, for the question we are interested in, single representative consumer is a good assumption. That's going to help us to derive sharp analytical results or insights. Now, question 3. A production function describes a technological possibility for converting factors input into output. Like in this class, usually what are the factor inputs? So this including physical capital and labor. Like this is for modern economy, right? For in agricultural economy, sometimes we also need land. But regarding to modern economy, usually land is considered as part of capital. Question 4. A positive pure income effect can be obtained. Now this one, increase in dividends. Right. So the increase in dividend is just a pure income effect. It just gives to you as no impact on the related price of other factors. Let me give you an example. Like A is not a pure income effect, right? Yes, increase in real wage is going to give you income effect, but at the same time, that's going to affect the price of leisure. Actually, make the price of leisure increase, right? So that is going to lead to substitution effect. What is substitution effects about? Actually, you may just substitute consumption for leisure, or in other words, you're going to reduce leisure when real wage increase. But certainly the income effect says when real wage increase, you're going to consume more leisure. But the substitution effect says leisure becomes more expensive. You want to reduce leisure, right? So there are two effects. So this is question 4. Now question 5, true or false? Dividend income depends on the consumer's behavior. No, so dividend income is coming from where? Coming from the firm. It doesn't depend on consumer's behavior. Now question 6. We assume that representative consumer's preference exhibit the property that the last one, both consumption and leisure are normal goods. Consumer likes diversity. right? So the diversity just means so they may prefer consumption and leisure. Actually, this diversity was reflects as the bow out of the indifference curve. Sorry, the indifference curve. The indifference curves look like, let me draw indifference curve, right? So we have seen before. The indifference curve is look like this, right? So this L and this C, right? So the slope of this curve just show you the marginal rate of substitution, right? So it's changing, getting smaller and smaller, right? When you have a lot of leisure, like here, so you think about if you have, when you have a lot of leisure and very little consumption, and you're willing to substitute for leisure, substitute leisure for consumption, is very high, right? Because you prefer diversity. Once we get here, once we have a lot of consumption, okay, and then you prefer consumption, and then the story is going to reverse, right? All right, so let me erase these. So this is question 6. Now question 7. The substitution effect measures A, the response of quantity to change in the relative price of goods. Think about you substitute goods that has lower price for goods that have higher price. You substitute leisure for consumption or for substitute consumption for leisure, depending on the relative price. Now, question 8. The property of diminishing marginal rate of substitution follows from the property that indifference curve. That's what I just explained to you. Right? So the indifference curve is bowed in toward origin. Okay. So actually, it just says the slope is getting steeper and steeper. But why there's diminishing marginal rate of substitution? Because you prefer diversity. Right. Now, question 9. If there are increasing return to scale in production. So that means increasing capital and labor in the same portion will increase output. So this is increasing return to scale. Usually in this class, we assume constant return to scale. Meaning, so if you increase in capital and labor in the same portion, right? And then so you're going to increase output in the same portion. Right? But here it says increase, right? Actually, not only increase. So the increase in return to scale, meaning the increase in output is going to be a higher compared with increase in capital. If it is constant return to scale, and then yes, output is going to increase, but increase in the same portion. To be precise, let me write that, to be precise. So if you increase capital and output, capital and labor by X, okay, think about X%, and then increase return to scale in production means the output is going to increase more than X%. If it's constant return to scale, meaning they're going to increase in the same proportion, it means in the output, it's going to X, right? So the difference between increased return to scale versus constant return to scale. Okay, next one. Question 10. Truth or false? If tax goes down, then consumer substitute consumption for leisure, right? So this is not correct. Why? It's because you have income effect and substitution effect, right? So this is only partly true. Tax goes down, and then so leisure becomes more expensive, right? Because leisure is like an after-tax income. Okay, leisure becomes more expensive. Yes, you're going to substitute consumption for leisure, but there's also an income effect. When tax goes down, your income increase. You want to increase leisure, right? 11. Change in government spending are not likely because of business cycle, because changing government spending predicts. The answer is A, counter-cyclical consumption. Okay, so there are two parts to this question. Number one, why government spending leads to counter-cyclical consumption? So this is because, so government spending, right? So say, for example, if the government spending increase in recession, right? Actually, this is what happens. If government spending increase in recession, now remember you have the identity for GDP. GDP equal to G plus I plus C plus NX. If G increase, and it must be the case, C is going to decline. Right? Okay. Right. But however, if in recession, the government spending decrease, so that means consumption is going to increase. All right. So let me write that. If in a recession, so G decrease, meaning C is going to increase. But in the expansion, if G increase, C is going to decrease. Right? What is this? So this is the first part, right? So G change is going to lead to C change in opposite direction. Now, business cycle, right? So basically, you're trying to see the economy is going to fluctuate, right? Fluctuate if G change in G spending is a cause of business cycle, meaning when we in a expansion goes to here, when we in a recession goes to here. So that's what this means. If G change is a cause of business cycle. Now, if G change is a cause of business cycle, meaning when there's a recession, C is going to increase. When there's expansion, C is going to decline. So that just means consumption is going to be counter-cyclical, right? So when we are in the expansion, C is going to decline. When we are in recession, C is going to increase. But this is not in line with the data, right? So that is explain why change in government spending cannot be the cause of business cycle. Okay, so this is question 11. Now, question 12. The presence of the distortion tax on wage income can result in, the answer is the last one. Right, let me highlight. The answer is the last one. Okay. So the marginal rate of substitution between leisure and consumption equal to 1 minus tau, okay, times. So this is regular marginal rate of substitution without distortion. Now, if there's a tax, it's going to reduce the marginal rate of substitution. Okay, so that's going to lead to a distortion, because without tax, the marginal rate substitution and marginal productivity labor is going to equal to each other. And then so we're going to reach the social optimum or efficient allocation. Okay? But due to the presence of distortion tax, it's going to change the value in the margin. Right. So this is 12. Now 13. In the one period competitive market, a competitive model we have been studying. So the correct answer is C. Consumption is endogenous and the total factor productivity is exogenous. Right, so this is usually we call it like exogenous growth model. Actually, right, so the exogenous growth model is similar with exogenous TLP. Now, question 14. Points on the production possibility frontier have the property that, the answer is C, show the maximum amount of leisure. that can be consumed for given amount of goods consumed. So what is PPF? So essentially shows, so given the resource we have, given the combination, so what we can produce, right? So we are going to produce consumption and leisure, right? So the answer is B. Now, question 15, true or false? In the one period model, when GFP decline, consumer may increase or decrease. Consumption may increase or decrease due to opposing income substitution effect. So the answer is false, right? So, but first, let's understand what's the income effect and substitution effect of TFP decline. So TFP decline, the income effect is, so you're going to produce less, your income is going to decline. So hence, consumption is going to decline, right? But what's the substitution effect? So TFP decline, the wage rate is going to decline. Leisure becomes cheaper. Actually, the substitution effect is they are going to consume more leisure. Right? Consume more leisure and consume less consumption. So meaning, so both income effect and substitution effect indicate the consumption will decrease when TFP decline. Right? So make sure you understand. So what is the TFP? What's the impact of TFP on leisure? Similarly, with analysis on income effect and substitution effect. Now, question 16. True or false? In the simplified one-period model with distortionary tax on wage income, there's always only one equilibrium. No. So this refers to lava curve, right? So you may have two equilibrium, right? Sometimes very high tax, very low tax. So end up with the same tax revenue and end up with the same equilibrium outcome, right? So this is 16. Now 17, change in TFP are plausible cause of the business cycle because productivity induced business cycle correctly predict B. Right? So that just refers to the basic facts of business cycle. Okay, what's business cycle? So the GDP or output fluctuate, right? And then so this repeat cycle theory just says, so change in TFP leads to change in fluctuation, or so the fluctuation GDP, right? Question 18. Sorry. 18. True or false? In a one-period model, externality implies that competitive equilibrium is not Pareto optimal. Right, so the answer is correct. But however, you should keep in mind, there are other things that leads to the competitive equilibrium is not Pareto optimal, including distortion types. Now, 19. Variable G considered in the model encompass. The correct answer is B, government expense on goods and service, not transfer. Okay, so G is just pure government spending on goods and service. Okay, not transfer. Now, question 20, proportional income tax is distorting because the answer is B, the competitive equilibrium is not Pareto optimal. It's simply because income tax is distort your margin. It's going to change the marginal rate of substitution. It's going to change the real rate of return on labor, right? Twenty-one. True or false? In the one-side search model, anything that increases the reservation wage reduce the unemployment rate. This is this is wrong. This should be opposite, right? So if the reservation wage increase, and then people becomes pickier in terms of accepting job offers, unemployment rate usually is going to increase. 22, the participation rate was higher in 2012 compared with 1948. So this is a basic fact regarding to labor market in the US. This is what happens after World War II in the US is that the females labor force participation rate increased, while males labor force participation rate declined. But overall, the labor force participation rate increased after World War II. So hence, the answer is D, the last one. Okay, this is 22. Now 23. In the two-sided search model, a reduction in TFP reduced labor market tightness. Yes, that's correct. Right, because firm is going to less willing to offer jobs. Okay. Now question 24, the average unemployment rate was lowest. So these are basic facts. So the correct answer is the second one. The second one, right? Now 25, in the two-side search model, the correct answer is A. Each consumer decide between searching for work and home production, meaning so they are going to receive some outside option compared with or different from wage received from a firm, right? So the firm is going to, household is going to decide between these two, I mean, work or stay at home. And a firm is going to decide whether to post vacancy or not. Now 26, true or false? The one-sided search model decrease in separation rate increased reservation wage. So this is not correct, right? So in the one-sided search model, decrease in separation rate. Okay, so that's going to reduce the reservation wage because the worker are more likely to accept the job offer, right? Because more promising, right? So they are more willing to join the labor force because they have lower risk in terms of separation, right? So it becomes more valuable to work. They require lower reservation wage. 27, in the two-sided search model, the answer is the last one. There are n total consumers, right? But this two-sided model usually we assume there are one firms, just simplify. 28. Which of the following best describes mismatch that can increase the unemployment rate? The answer is A, a decrease in the availability of information for firms about the skill of workers. So they just don't know who they are, right? So that's going to lead to a mismatch, or it's going to reduce the efficiency in terms of matching. So 29, in the matching function captured the idea that the answer is C, is costly and time consuming to get firm and worker together to produce output. So this is kind of linked with 28, right? So the increase in information the decrease in information, right? So this information about the skill of a worker is going to lead to the difficulty for firm to identify potential worker, right? So that's going to explain the effectiveness of matching. But certainly, the more information you have, the more effective the firm is going to match with the workers, hence lower unemployment. On the other hand, it's more difficult to obtain information about a worker, and then less efficient, they're going to match with each other. And furthermore, that's going to increase the unemployment rate. right? Because there are less pairs going to form. I mean, this pair is between worker and the potential employer. Question 30. In the one-sided search model, in the long run, the number of people who are separated from their job each period equals the number who accept job offer of employment. So that's correct. Just think about like a water tank, right? So you have inflow and outflow. And here the water tank here is referred to the labor market. And inflow is people who accept job offer. Outflow is people separate from the job. In the long run, so this must balance. Otherwise, you're going to see the labor market keep adjusting, right? So when they balance with each other, and then so these two numbers must equal to each other, right? So this is the sample test for exam 2.